Nobody trapped you. Let me say that again so it actually lands. Nobody trapped you. You walked into that situationship with both eyes wide open, and you stayed. Not because you didn't see the signs, not because you were naive. You stayed because the truth was too inconvenient to face. And I know that stings. But if you're still watching this right now, you are either neck deep in one as we speak, or you just crawled out of one and you're wondering why you feel so hollow inside. Either way, stay with me for the next 15 minutes, because what I'm about to break down will challenge everything you have told yourself about that almost relationship. And by the end of this video, you're either going to thank me or you're going to be furious. Honestly, both reactions mean I did my job. But before I go any further, here's what I need you to understand. Somewhere around minute 8 of this video, I'm going to say something that most relationship coaches are terrified to admit publicly. It's going to make some of you deeply uncomfortable, and it might be the single most important thing anyone has ever told you about why you keep ending up in these undefined, soul-draining arrangements. So don't you dare click away. Here's the comfortable lie that millions of people are swallowing right now, and I mean swallowing whole. No chewing, no questioning, just straight down the throat. We don't need a label. What we have is deeper than that. Let me be absolutely, brutally, unapologetically honest with you. That single sentence has destroyed more emotional well-being than most actual breakups ever could. You want to know why? Because at least in a real breakup, there's a definitive ending. There's grief. There's a funeral for the relationship. There's a point where mourning begins and healing eventually follows. But in a situationship, there is nothing to grieve because technically nothing ever existed. And that is the cruelest part of the entire arrangement. You gave real feelings. You gave real time. You reorganized your real schedule. You offered real emotional bandwidth. You showed up with your whole, real, unguarded heart to something the other person can walk away from tomorrow and genuinely tell their friends, we were never actually together. And it would be technically true. Now here's what nobody wants to admit. Most people don't stumble into situationships by accident. They agree to it. They volunteer. They negotiate themselves down from what they actually want because they're absolutely terrified that asking for the full meal will make the other person leave the table. So instead of saying, I want commitment, they force a smile and say, yeah, I'm cool with just seeing where things go. And then they spend the next 6 months analyzing text message response times at 2 in the morning, wondering why they feel so empty. Let me ask you something that might ruin your night. If you completely removed every element of physical intimacy from your situationship, every kiss, every touch, every late night encounter, would that person still be in your life? Would they still call? Would they still show up? Sit with that question for 10 full seconds, because if the answer makes your stomach drop, you already have all the information you need. Here is the harsh reality that feel-good content creators and motivational quote pages will never tell you, because it doesn't get easy likes. A situationship is not a relationship in progress. It is not a beautiful slow burn. It is not a building phase. In the overwhelming majority of cases, and I'm speaking from over a decade of sitting across from real people with real heartbreak and real tears, a situationship is a finished product. You are looking at the final version. What you see is what you get. That person has already decided what you are to them. They did not forget to call you their partner. They did not accidentally overlook the define the relationship conversation. They chose, deliberately and consciously, not to. And I need you to understand the canyon-wide difference between those two things, because it rewrites the entire story. Forgetting suggests carelessness. Choosing not to reveals intention. And when someone intentionally holds you in undefined territory, they are not confused. They are comfortable. You are convenient. You fill a role: emotional support, physical companionship, ego validation. without requiring them to sacrifice 1 ounce of their freedom or accountability. Now, here's where it gets even more uncomfortable, and some of you are going to want to fight me on this. Some of you are sitting there thinking, but our situation is genuinely different. They told me they're scared of commitment because of what they went through before. I hear you. I'm not dismissing anyone's trauma. Trauma is real. Healing takes genuine time. But I am going to give you a reality check that could save you an entire wasted year of your one precious life. Someone who is genuinely healing and genuinely interested in building something with you will communicate that with absolute clarity. They will say, I'm not fully ready yet, but I want to be, and here is what I'm actively doing to get there. What they will not do is continue receiving your emotional labor, continue enjoying your physical presence, continue accepting every benefit of commitment, while permanently hiding behind I'm just not ready as a shield. At a certain point, and that point arrives much sooner than most of you want to accept, I'm not ready stops being honest vulnerability and starts being comfortable manipulation. Now, forget the obvious indicators you've read about in every blog post and Instagram carousel. Forget they won't post you, and they avoid the boyfriend-girlfriend label. That's surface-level analysis. I want to take you beneath the waterline. The first invisible sign, your emotional needs are treated as inconveniences. You gather the courage to express how you're feeling, and instantaneously, the entire atmosphere shifts. They get quiet, they get defensive, they redirect. Why do you always have to overanalyze everything? That question alone should tell you everything. That is not someone who cherishes your emotional world. That is someone who is managing you, keeping you just satisfied enough not to walk out the door, but never fulfilled enough to feel genuinely secure. That is not love. That is maintenance, and you are not a property to be maintained. The second invisible sign, you are intimately familiar with their body, but completely locked out of their inner world. You could describe every physical detail of being close to this person, but could you name the friend who shaped their teenage years? Do you know the fear that keeps them staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m? Have they ever been raw and vulnerable with you about something that gave them 0 strategic advantage? Physical closeness without emotional transparency means you are occupying a compartment in their life, not a central place in your heart. Those are radically different things. The third invisible sign, and this is the one that is going to challenge many of you directly. You are performing the full emotional labor of a committed relationship while receiving absolutely none of the security that comes with one. You check on them, you adjust your plans, you're understanding when they vanish. You process your anxiety completely alone when they go dark for days. You are functioning as a devoted partner in every measurable way, but you don't get to call yourself one. And the most heartbreaking part? You've been doing this so long that the abnormal has started to feel normal. It should not.
So, why do intelligent, self-aware, otherwise accomplished people voluntarily remain in these emotional purgatory arrangements? This is where it gets psychologically fascinating and genuinely a little disturbing. The first mechanism is called intermittent reinforcement. It operates on the exact same neurological principle as slot machine addiction. When someone delivers affection and attention inconsistently, blazing hot on Tuesday, Arctic cold by Friday, your brain doesn't disengage. It bonds harder. You begin unconsciously chasing the next hit of warmth. And every single time they resurface after days of radio silence, your dopamine system erupts. You feel a tidal wave of relief, and you mistake that relief, that neurochemical spike, for deep love. But it is not love. It is a trauma response wearing the costume of butterflies. The second mechanism is ego protection. A staggering number of people would rather remain indefinitely in a half relationship than risk the ego wound of asking for a full one and hearing no. Because as long as you never have the defining conversation, you can never be technically rejected. You insulate yourself from a definitive no by strategically never asking the question. But here's the devastating trade-off. You also never get a yes. You exchange the temporary possibility of pain for the permanent certainty of limbo. And limbo, compounded over months and years, is exponentially more corrosive than any single rejection could ever be. And the third mechanism, this is the one I mentioned at the beginning that most coaches will not touch, is the addiction to unavailability itself. Some of you are subconsciously drawn to emotionally unavailable people because that dynamic feels familiar. Not comfortable, familiar. There's a difference. If inconsistency, emotional distance, or having to earn affection was part of your earliest blueprint for what love looks like, then a genuinely available, stable, communicative partner doesn't feel exciting to you. It feels suspicious. It feels boring. You actually think, if it's this easy, something must be wrong with them. But when someone delivers chaos, mixed signals, hot-cold behavior, and emotional unpredictability, you call that chemistry. You call that passion. You call it a deep, inexplicable connection. It's not passion. It is a wound from your history running your present. And until you turn around and face that wound directly, you will keep selecting the exact same type of person, just wearing a different face, a different name, and a different set of excuses.
Hard truth number 1, and I will not soften this. If someone wanted to be with you, officially, publicly, consistently, proudly, they would be, period. End of analysis. I don't care how demanding their career is. I don't care how complex their family dynamics are. I don't care what philosophical stance they have on labels. Human history is filled with people who crossed oceans, defied social conventions, and restructured their entire lives for someone they genuinely wanted. Your person cannot even commit to a consistent communication pattern. Stop constructing monuments to someone who refuses to give you a single brick. Hard truth number 2, you are not being patient. You are being passive. And the distance between those two words is enormous. Patience is consciously waiting for something that has been clearly communicated, mutually agreed upon, and actively worked toward. That is patience. That is admirable. Passivity is sitting in silence, hoping that something undefined will magically transform into something meaningful with zero evidence, zero conversation, and zero mutual effort to support that hope. That is not loyalty. That is stagnation. And stagnation disguised as devotion is one of the most quietly dangerous patterns in modern dating. You're not standing by someone. You're standing still while your life moves forward without you. Hard truth number 3. The almost relationship hurts more than the actual breakup. And there is a very specific psychological reason for that. When a committed relationship ends, you mourn what was real. You grieve shared memories, established routines, spoken promises. There is tangible substance to process. But when a situationship dissolves, you mourn what you imagined. You grieve the projections, the potential, the future you constructed entirely in your own mind. A future the other person never once confirmed they would participate in. And imagination has no ceiling. You didn't just lose a person. You lost an entire fantasy world you built and furnished and moved into emotionally, alone. That is not their fault. That is the direct consequence of investing your deepest emotions into a narrative you were too afraid to reality check with one honest conversation. Hard truth number 4, and this one is going to split this comment section right down the middle. Some of you have romanticized ambiguity because certainty feels ordinary to you, where complicated sounds more cinematically interesting than we're committed. What we have can't be defined feels deeper than this is my partner. You've turned confusion into an aesthetic. You've made instability feel poetic. But here's the unvarnished truth.
Stability is not the enemy of passion. Security is not the death of excitement. And glorifying emotional chaos as though it's some elevated form of connection is not a sign of depth. It's a sign of unresolved avoidance. The most emotionally evolved relationships on this planet are not the ones that keep you guessing. They're the ones that let you finally exhale. So what do people with genuine emotional intelligence actually do when they recognize they've drifted into this undefined territory? First, they name it out loud without apology. They don't tiptoe, they don't wait another season hoping clarity will materialize like morning fog burning off. They sit down and say 5 direct words. What are we doing here? And then, critically, they accept the answer, even when it guts them. Second, they stop negotiating their value downward. They refuse to tell themselves, maybe if I just give them more patience, more understanding, more space, more grace, they'll eventually come around. Emotionally mature people understand a principle that will save your life if you let it. You cannot persuade someone into choosing you. If it requires a campaign of convincing, the answer was already no. You just couldn't hear it over the sound of your own hope. Third, they enforce consequences, and this is the critical separation point. Anyone can announce a boundary. That takes 5 seconds of courage. But enforcing that boundary when it's violated, that takes character. If you say, I need consistency, and they vanish for weeks, and you welcome them back with open arms and 0 conversation, congratulations. You just demonstrated that your boundaries are decorations, ornamental. Emotionally mature people follow through. They don't issue threats. They don't deliver ultimatums wrapped in drama. They simply, quietly, firmly leave when their non-negotiables are not met, with their dignity fully intact. And fourth, they prioritize their own internal work before seeking completion in another human being. They go to therapy, not as a trend, but as a practice. They journal. They sit with their loneliness instead of texting their situationship at midnight to numb it. They recognize a truth that changes everything. The caliber of love you attract is a direct mirror of the relationship you've cultivated with yourself.
So here is my challenge to you. And I'm not saying this to be harsh. I'm saying this because I have spent over a decade watching extraordinary people pour their best years into someone who was never, not once, planning to stay. If you are currently in a situationship, I want you to do one specific thing within the next 48 hours. Ask the question. Not the vague, safe, easy to dodge version. So like, where do you see this going? No. Ask the precise question. Are we in a committed, exclusive relationship? Yes or no? And then do the hardest thing you will ever do. Be quiet. Let them answer. Do not fill the silence for them. Do not rescue them from the discomfort of a direct question. Do not offer them an escape route. Let the silence sit there like a mirror and force them to look into it. If they say yes, genuinely, clearly, without hesitation, then build. Define it, protect it, grow it together with intention. But if they say anything other than an unambiguous yes, if they pause too long, deflect with humor, redirect to a different topic, get suddenly irritated, or launch into a philosophical lecture about how labels are just social constructs that limit authentic human connection, you have your answer. And your answer is no. A not yet from someone who has had months upon months to decide is simply a no with better marketing. Let me leave you with this and let it burn into your memory. You are not too much for wanting clarity. You are not desperate for wanting someone who introduces you with pride and without hesitation. You are not high maintenance for expecting a human being to behave with basic consistency and honesty. Those are not outrageous standards. Those are the bare minimum of what any self-respecting person should expect. And anyone who makes you feel guilty for wanting the bare minimum is someone who directly benefits from you having none. Now, I know this video hit some of you differently than you expected. Some of you are angry right now. Good. Anger usually means something connected with a nerve that has needed attention for a long time. Some of you are sitting in sadness because you've just been forced to acknowledge what you've been running from. And some of you, maybe quietly, feel relieved because someone finally said out loud what every friend in your life has been tiptoeing around for months. Whatever you're feeling right now, I want to hear it. Drop a comment below and tell me honestly, are you currently in a situationship? And after watching this, what are you actually going to do about it? Be raw, be real. This is a judgment-free zone, but I need you to understand, it is not a delusion-friendly zone. There is a significant difference between those two things. If this video gave you even one moment of clarity, one single second where you felt genuinely seen, hit that subscribe button right now. Share this with someone you care about who needs to hear every word of this. And turn on notifications because the conversations happening on this channel are about to go places most people are too afraid to go. You deserve certainty. You deserve someone who doesn't make you question your own worth. Now go demand it.